I call this meeting to order at 5:31 p.m. We will now move into section 1B, swearing in. There is none. We'll now move into section 1C, roll call. Clerk Wilson, please open the roll call.
Roll call is open. Please press any button on your clicker to be marked present. With 17 members present, simple majority is 9.
Thank you. Before we move into section 2, open forum, under the provisions of the Student Government Association, whenever an emeritus holder is present, the Student Senate shall recognize them. Please stand and join me in welcoming Emeritus Student Body President John Lin Wong. We will now move into section 2, open forum, and we will first begin with 3-minute floor speeches. Any senator may seek recognition to give a speech on a subject of their choice. 3-minute speeches are focused on specific topics. Senators may only hold the floor once during this period. Are there any senators that wish to speak at this time? Seeing no senators that wish to speak, we will now move into section 2B, public forum. Public forum provides a chance for individuals to have the privilege of speaking before the Senate, limited to 3 minutes only. This is the time for the Senate to listen to what the community has to say, and to that, we offer our undivided respect and attention. We would like to remind everyone that, although we allow the speakers the privilege to use this platform, the opinions of the speakers do not reflect the opinions of the association. As I start the public forum period, I will call on the individuals that signed up through the forum first, and from there, any other individuals that wish to speak may raise their hand, and I will call on you. Each student organization gets a total of 3 minutes. So if you're here for one organization, there are multiple individuals, you have 3 minutes collectively. If you sent us your presentation, we will have that pulled up and ready for you first. Additionally, once you speak in public forum, you cannot speak again within this meeting. You're not allowed to interrupt our deliberations, but you are more than welcome to stay and watch behind. And for all those that are here today, we really appreciate you coming to our Student Senate to speak before us, and we are grateful for those joining on the live stream too. With that, we'll now move into the first organization that signed up for public forum, the Audio Engineering Society. And before you get started, when the 3-minute time limit is up, I'll use a light gavel to let you know. But you may begin whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Macy Schroeder, and I am the president of the Audio Engineering Society. So a little bit about us for those who may not know. AES is a professional international organization that's dedicated to uniting audio engineers across the country. We have our own section of this at WSU that acts kind of as a form of career development for students who want to pursue these careers professionally. And it also just acts as a safe space for people interested in this field to kind of connect and collaborate and unite over this mutual interest. As you can see, our membership has grown by almost double just within the last 2 years. We're a fairly recent organization, but it has already kind of been skyrocketing since then, and we expect this development to continue. This is just a brief overview of some of our organizational activities. but the main two I want to focus on speaking on today are the conferences and the general meetings. The conferences for this year are going to be the National AES Convention in Nashville at the end of October. And then in the spring, we will also have a regional convention called CRAS. We plan to send 10 and 5 students to these conventions respectively. And at our general meetings, these act as a place where we can do workshops, have interdisciplinary sessions with other organizations that have relation to audio, like game design students, film students, things like that, that we also bring into our meetings. So to speak on the budget a little bit, we have been allocated $5,327 for this upcoming year. We originally requested $9,000. And to that point, I did observe over the live stream presentation for our organization that the Finance Commission originally wanted to allocate us $8,300 to cover both our conference costs as well as our general meeting costs. We understand that this had to be cut because there are a lot of organizations on the line, and that may not have fit into the budget, but I would like to request that we may be allocated an extra $1,000 rather than that whole $3,000 amount that was there for the original allocation. And the reason for this is because if you view the conference budget that we originally had, we wanted to allocate around $6,200 for the conference costs of our organization. You go to the next slide. You can also view our general meeting costs for last year. This came up to $1,700 for the entire year. And then these are the rest of the costs we calculated for the entire year, just to give you a brief overview again.
I'm sorry, your 3-minute time period is up.
Sorry.
But would you like to stand for questions? Okay, I'll open up the question period. Are there any questions for our presenter? Seeing none, thank you. And for reference, if anyone wants to view these materials, they will be in the teams in the legislative packets under presentations. Thank you.
Thanks.
We will now move to Redeem Campus Fellowship. You may begin.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Chamaka Uchechuka. I'm the president of Redeem Campus Fellowship, and here with me is Boluwatitu Adesina. He is the treasurer. So we're here to request for an increase in our allocation for this academic year. A little bit about us. Redeem Campus Fellowship is a non-profit senior organization which aims at the students improving their knowledge of Jesus Christ while also maintaining meaningful friendships and connecting with mentors. We are growing in membership. As of the past 2 years, we had a 5 to 10% increase in members, but as of last year, we increased that number to 70%. So we also plan to improve in that. Students have often expressed that they found a sense of belonging in attending our meetings, which is linked to connecting with their spirituality. So as a result, the recommended appropriation funds may not be sustainable for our goals and visions. For this year, we plan to have about 15 weekly meetings per semester, which includes Bible studies and a lot of other events. Our weekly Bible studies are mostly like the standard events we have every week, but that's excluding other events, such as last year we had an event called God's Nodded with over 100 people in attendance across campus and outside of Wichita State University. We also plan to have more impactful programs centered on holistic care of students, and that involves inviting guest ministers and experts on educational, financial, social, and mental well-being of students.
With a revised after the original allocations meeting, we came back. We were allocated, I think, about $1,400 for the entire year, which we do not think might be enough to cover the costs of our meetings, events, and programs that we plan to have on campus this year. So we've come back with an increased or reduced amount from 5,000 to about 3,800 for the entire year, which is offset by projected fundraising, executive funding from those of us in the executive team. There's about 6 of us. We plan to use most of that allocation on food and drinks for meetings, off and on-campus events, meaning we do bowling, we do a few other things, we invite guest ministers. Those things, they might need more money than regular events. We also plan to distribute Bibles, flyers, reading materials, posters around campus just to spread the word and bring people to the knowledge of Jesus Christ. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you stand for questions?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for our presenters? Senator Mauer.
You had just a percentage, but do you know roughly what your membership is active for WCU?
Right now, we have about 60 members.
Are there any other questions? Seeing no more questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move to Spectrum LGBTQ and allies. You may begin.
Good evening. My name is Mo Hatfield, and I am the president of Spectrum LGBTQ and Allies. I wanted to bring up some concerns I have with how appropriations presentations and deliberations were done. I do not expect these concerns to change any of the amounts that are being proposed tonight. I only hope that my thoughts are taken into consideration for how things are done for the next fiscal year. When my organization received the first email about appropriations presentations, it encouraged us to include a minimum operating budget as part of our presentation. Additionally, during the first round of deliberations, the Finance Committee had originally wanted to give us $18,000, which was over our minimum budget. Understandably, the committee was over the total allotment for all of the RSOs at the end of that first round. So in the second round of deliberations, we were cut down to exactly our minimum budget. I would also like to emphasize that there was nothing stated to be wrong with our presentation, calculations, or our plans for the budget. All of this was then followed by a third round of cuts, where instead of looking at individual line items, the committee chose to cut 0.6% from everyone's budget. I would have no issue with this if all other organizations were already cut down to their minimum when this across-the-board cut was made, or if there had been any issues stated with our presentation or applications. But neither of these were the case, and I'm aware of at least one organization that has currently been allotted more than double their minimum, and that at least one organization is currently allotted thousands over their minimum. These things put together make it seem like in round 2 we were cut to our minimum, while others weren't, due to us being a larger organization, and thus our line item being a higher amount. And due to that, we were cut below the minimum we gave when the 0.6% was cut across the board, while others still remain above their minimum given. Additionally, if we hadn't included a slide for minimum operating budget, because although it was encouraged to include it, it was not required, the committee would have been much more intentional with what they wanted to cut for my organization's budget. These things put together make it seem like we are being punished for being a larger organization and for including a minimum operating budget like we were encouraged to do. I'm not going to stand here and tell you to take away money from other organizations to fund mine, because that seems disingenuous and frankly rude. But at a bare minimum, I hope this information is taken into account, and that next year either a minimum budget is not mentioned at all for presentations, or that it is a fully fledged requirement. Thank you.
Will you be standing for questions?
Yes.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, thank you. And then for clarification, before we move into the next item, Japanese Culture Association has declined to speak today. So we will now move into Delta Upsilon chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. You may begin.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cameron. I am the representative for the Delta Upsilon chapter of Kappa Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and I would like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to speak. It was inexcusable that our representative could not be there for our appropriations, but I'm here to fight for us. We originally asked for $9,500 because, unfortunately, as a fraternity, we have to pay insurance every year to maintain our status on campus. Every year is $2,400. Hopefully, we get it lower every year, but they always seem to increase, so we have to fight to stay on campus every time. And we would like to continue to stay on campus because we have been steadily improving our presence on this campus, whether through community service, through on campus, or through working in our own fields of human endeavor. We believe in achievement, and we continue to strive for that. The money will go towards our insurance, but also go towards our conference costs. Because of rising economic costs, every year, hotels, transportation, and even food continues to increase. Last year, we requested close to $3,000. We got $2,700, and we used all that money up just on hotel costs alone. And I would like to maintain our status on campus. We worked really hard these past 3 years to increase communication with students, with faculty, and with the wider community as a whole, and I will always stand here and fight for us no matter what. And I always appreciate that y'all give out the time to let people like us speak. Even though we're small, we are still mighty. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you be standing for questions?
Yes.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any senators with any questions? Senator Parker.
Do you have dollar amounts for those things that you're asking for, like for transportation costs and for your insurance?
For insurance, it will always be $2,400, added with about a $200 increase because of we pay through card. With hotel costs, we don't get them until around September. Conference is in November, but depending on the hotel they are able to get, it can range. Sorry if I'm speaking too close to the mic. But last year, a hotel cost about $156 per night, and we had 2 rooms. And then if you add new members that we bring in, we have to take account to that as well. So say we have 3 rooms, they're about $156. We're looking, and for about 4 nights, it's about close to $2,000.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing no further questions, thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move to the Fairmount College Advisory Board. You may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Chloe Strecker, and I'm a student and part of the Liberal Arts and Sciences College here at Wichita State, but I also serve as the Vice President and Treasurer for the Fairmount College Student Advisory Council. The Fairmount College of Liberal Arts and Sciences is the largest college at Wichita State. Spanning 17 departments, we offer 109 degrees and certificates and hold 7,200 students inside of it. That's roughly 40% of this university's entire enrollment sitting inside of one college alone. Despite that scale, Fairmount College Student Advisory Council received no funding from the Appropriations and Finance Committee. Therefore, we have $0 to be able to work with for events for our students inside of the liberal arts and sciences. This was under the basis that we are an academic college's student-facing advisory board, and they are expected to fund us for the year. However, the Fairmount College Student Advisory Council faces a hardship. We have no money in our safekeeping, and we were allocated no money to be able to work with for our events for the year. While the university also faces a massive budget cut right now, the Fairmont College alone absorbed a $1.5 million budget cut. And while that money doesn't directly show up in students' daily lives, it shows up in staffing, advisory capacity, as well as programming budgets across all 17 of our departments. Therefore, I think it's slightly absurd to be able to ask them to not only fund their students inside of the college, but also to fund their advisory board. Despite all of this, the Fairmont College Student Advisory Council has not shrunk. We plan to host different events such as first-generation meetings for our students who are the first in their family to attend college, to be able to honor our students who are the top of their class, as well as be able to offer our students different opportunities to network with career opportunities after college. We did not scale back on our commitment to students just because the college budget did. When a college is representing 40% of the university's enrollment and it absorbs a $1.5 million cut, student-facing programs that keep the community connected should not be a thing that quietly disappears. Right now, every Fairmont College student advisory event must run on goodwill, volunteer time, and informal dean's office support because funding is at a zero. I would like to propose a new budget for us of $1,800, if not up to a $2,000 minimum, which is relatively modest for the scale of students that we are attempting to serve. This is not a request to fund growth, but a request to protect what's already working. For the largest student population on this campus, at this exact moment, the college has the least capacity to do it alone. So I would like you to consider what I'm saying tonight as not only an ask for myself, for the Fairmont College Student Advisory Council, but all of the students in our college as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you be standing for questions?
Yes, sir.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for our speaker? Senator Parker.
You mentioned 1,800 to 2,000 for your minimum budget. What kind of things would you use that for?
So for our first generation student event, we typically host a COCO event so that they can come, meet each other, meet different resources for themselves. We typically see about $200 to $300 for that, as well as we also try to host different fun before finals events. These are different events where our students are able to relax, take a time to just be able to take a minute before midterms, finals, and we typically see around $350 to $400 for both of those events. We typically want to host them every single semester since we have finals in both semesters, so we see around $800 for that event. But then other things, we included costs for things that we would like to host but have not had funds to be able to host in the past, such as hosting different beyond the degree panels so that our students can get in touch with career opportunities and different networking opportunities for professionals who are in the field and alumni of the Liberal Arts and Sciences College, as well as an honor roll event that we have not been able to host the past few years due to no funding. However, we do not have a budget for those right now.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We will now move into the Innovation and Design Student Organization. You may begin whenever you're ready. And we have your presentation pulled up for you too.
Hello. Hi everyone, I'm Sony, President of Innovation Design Student Organization. For those who don't know us, we bring together people who are passionate about emerging technology and design. We organize events and workshops focused on emerging technologies such as AI and their application in design. Today, I'm here to request an increase in appropriation funding for our organization. Thank you for making the time to hear us again, and thank you for recommending $4,969 for our organization. That funding matters to us, and we are grateful for it, but I'm afraid we'll only be able to cover our conference budget with that. After we received an email for our appropriation funding, we went back through our budget and tried to optimize it and scale it down. We cut off 2 events from our budget plan, our Adobe Student Ambassador events and our fundraisers. We also reduced social events to 2 events for the whole academic year, and our request is smaller than before. We initially asked for $10,000, and we're now requesting $8,100. Given what you have already recommended, we would like to request an additional $3,000 on top of that amount. Yeah, CS is where most of our budget goes. This is a conference we go to every year. This is taken on basis of last year's cost, $5,000, 5 students, 3 days. We did try to bring this down. We reduced the students participating from 6 to 5, and we took meals out completely, so students will cover their own food in Las Vegas. This is the hardest item for us to scale down, but we understand we are working with limits too. Please, next. I want to be upfront about one number here because it is larger than what we told you last time. The hackathon actually costs $3,796, but we are not asking you for that. We are still asking for $2,500, the same as before, because we always intended to cover the difference from other sources. Our original number was not a rough guess, it was already the optimized one, as you can see here in the screen. Participants, we're expecting 50 at $17, and those are all the prices we calculated, and the actual cost is $3,796. Also, this is our last year at Wichita State, so this is also our last chance to build something like this here, and getting to host a hackathon for our members and other students would be a meaningful experience for us, and we would really like to see that happen. So this is the full picture. $5,000 for CES, $2,500 for the hackathons.
I'm sorry, time is up. Will you be standing for any questions?
Sure.
Okay, we'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions? We'll go to Senator Mallard first.
I just want to ask, how many members do you have in your club?
26.
Are there any additional questions? Senator Mallard?
For the hackathon, you're asking for $2,000 for prizes and awards. I was just curious, what are those prizes, if you're able to speak on that?
For the prizes, for now, we're thinking iPads and other pool prizes like gifts.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any additional individuals that wish to speak in public forum at this time? Okay, before I close public forum, I will read a message on behalf of the Graduate Student Council. Thank you so much for letting us know about the Finance Commission's decision. We truly appreciate the time and effort the entire committee, along with everyone involved in this process, dedicated to reviewing our request this year. We understand the Student Senate will review the recommended allocations on Wednesday, August 26th, and we're grateful for the opportunity to speak in public forum. Ultimately, both Urme and I have classes at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow, and we will be unable to attend in person this time. For this reason, we're attaching a detailed update budget breakdown reflecting $14,000 total, $7,000 per semester for your and the Senate's review. If there is any possibility of increasing the amount recommended to us, we would be extremely grateful. We're deeply grateful for the Commission's time and thoughtful consideration throughout this process, and we remain committed to making the very best use of whatever funding is ultimately approved to serve WSU's graduate student community this year. Please let us know if there's anything we can provide. Thank you again for your continued support. And that budget breakdown that they sent to us is in the Senate teams. Are there any final individuals that wish to speak in public forum at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public forum. We will take a 10-minute recess as the live stream camera is having some technical difficulties. We will We will come back, re-adjourn for Senate at 6:11 p.m. I recess this meeting at 6:01 p.m. I call this meeting back to order at 6:12 p.m. It is the opinion of the chair that all members are present. We'll now move into section 3, messages, presentations, introductions, and reports. And we will first move to 3A, messages from the office of the student body president. The clerk may read.
Messages from the Student Body President, Jaden Island, August 26, 2026. Bills filed upon recommendation by the Senate and by authority of the following have been signed and filed as law. SB-69-022, an act to appoint Andrew Beam as Honors Commissioner for the 69th session. SB-69-015, an act to appoint Senator Berry to serve as pro tempore chairperson of the Senate Affairs and Operations Committee. Resolutions filed upon recommendation by the Senate and by my authority, the following have been signed and filed as the resolved sentiment of the association. No actions taken. Executive orders filed. No actions taken. End of message.
Thank you. For sections 3B, 3C, 3D, and 3E, those items will be submitted into the record electronically for the sake of time. We will now move into section 4, the consent agenda, and on today's consent agenda is approval of the August 19, 2026 Senate meeting minutes and an act on request to approve SB-69-024, an act to appoint Senator Taylor to serve as the pro tempore chairperson of the Student Support Services Committee. Are there any objections to the items on the consent agenda? Seeing no objections, these items are adopted as such. We'll now move into section 5, pending business. There is none. We'll now move into section 6, new business, and we'll now move into 6.1. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-025, an act to approve funding and authorize the Simply Voting contract.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor. And one more thing before Treasurer Naylor speaks, we are having Treasurer Naylor present up here to adjust for the camera, as we'll have to switch between the settings. So everyone that is speaking on bills will be sitting up here so that we are included within the camera shot. But you may present the legislation.
Good evening. The Simply Voting contract is up for renewal this year. The renewal will last 3 years and cost $11,826 for all 3 years. We do renew this contract on a longer-term basis as there's a discount for the multi-year contract through Simply Voting. And that is all I have, and I will stand for questions.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? This is your one and only chance to ask questions, as this is a first and final read. Are there any questions? Chairperson Brown.
Could you maybe go in a little more in depth as to what we're going to use Simply Voting for and why it's timely?
Yes, so as the midterms are coming up, Simply Voting is the platform we use to collect all of the votes. So we use this for the midterms and the spring election.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, seeing no questions, I will now close the question period. We'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in the debate period at this time regarding the Simply Voting contract and allocation? Chairperson Beam.
I motion to pass by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, is adopted as such. Before we move into section 6.2, for all the appropriations legislation in the teams, there are 2 folders with appropriations legislation. One folder says do not edit appropriations legislation, and the other one says appropriations legislation, and includes the range of bills from SB 69026 through SB 69-105. For the do not edit folder, I ask that you do not edit those bills, as those will be our final versions of the bills that we will print out throughout the meeting. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you decide to add money to an organization in this process, you have to remove money from another organization. We have to end this process with a balanced budget, so we can't have any money left over or owing money left at the end too. Also, in the teams, we have uploaded a conflict of interest form responses. So if you go to the Senate legislative packet and move into today's date, there is a Excel sheet titled Student Government Association 69th Session Conflict of Interest Declaration Form. This form is used to not only make it clear for all of us regarding on who everyone's conflict of interest is, but also for the sake of chairing meetings, it also makes it a little bit more clear on who may be chairing the meeting. There will be a few pieces of legislation that I will be abstaining from, and therefore I will hand over the chair to Vice President Raju during those times due to my conflict of interest, due to my association with those organizations or relationships with people in those groups too. But I will hand it over to Advisor Fonseca to talk a little bit more about the process of doing our appropriations approval, in addition to any changes that people may have and questions.
It's on here for now, but then we're moving it back. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how this process works. I know at our retreat last week, we talked a little bit about how the Finance Commission process works, and ultimately want to get to the Senate, how that process works from here. Current policies require that this process be adopted by individual bills so that senators have the opportunity to abstain from wherever there are any conflicts according to our ethics policy. So that's why we're processing 82, 81 pieces of legislation tonight through this process. This appropriations process has some very specific rules about, similar to student fees, has some very specific rules about how the Senate is charged with processing this. Unlike student fees, everything in the appropriations is done by a simple majority. Pulling money, changing money, all those other things are simply done by a simple majority to do so. One of the important things that's for this process, there is a base budget of $350,000. So that is all the money that was allocated and approved by this body to fund for appropriations, which means that's all the money you have to approve over the course of the next, who knows how long this process will take. With that, you're also required to spend all of the money that we allocate for appropriation. So the Finance Commission made their recommendation. Now your turn is to decide yes, no, and here's how we want to move it if you choose to do that. This spreadsheet will be up here. We're not going to process them through the bills because that's going to get complicated. But the important part for this to remember, similar to what the speaker mentioned earlier, if you want to give, we'll use these examples here. If you want to give 3D printed prosthetics more money, you have to take it from someone else's line to do so. If you choose to do that, that is your only organization that gets the ability to subtract funding from. So if you get 3D prosthetics and you want to take it from the Arab Student Association, you can only do it once. You can't go back and say, let's keep taking the money from there if you want to try and move that money to another line item from there. So if you take money, you have to, or if you want to increase a budget line, you have to take it from someone else's budget line to do that. It doesn't work in the process where, like student fees, where you wait a week, all of it is done tonight. So you'll ask for a line to come out, you'll look at the other line, subtract whatever you're signed up to subtract, and that becomes that group's new allocation, and we adopt that change from there as well. Now let's say 3D prosthetics, you approve it, and down by there for a Criminal Justice Student Association, you want to give them more money, but you want to take it from 3D prosthetics, you have to first get a motion passed to reconsider that legislation because you've already adopted it or failed it, depending on whatever choice you make. So that has to be the first motion that you take. So if Senator Timms was like, I want to give Criminal Justice Student Association $5,000 more, I don't know what that number says, so let's pretend that's correct, and they want to take it from 3D prosthetics, they first have to make the motion to reconsider 3D prosthetics, to open that budget again, take the money out, vote on that, and then you'll have to vote on the amendment that is made in that scenario. You can only do that with a group once, so you can't keep going after one organization if you want to take money from that organization as well. So it's important that you kind of understand that process as we get to it as well. End of the day, the budget must remain balanced, so there is no additional dollars, and you can't leave any dollars behind in the appropriations fund. We have to give it all out and approve that over the course of tonight. I know that sounds a little confusing, but questions, comments, concerns that I can help answer as we get started with this process.
Can you go over the ethics policy one more time?
Yes, absolutely. Specifically, the second clause of our ethics policy applies to you all specifically tonight because you are voting on funding. The specific clause mentions that if you hold a leadership role of a student organization that is up for approval tonight or consideration tonight, that you should abstain from voting in that process. Same sentiment is you should abstain from even debating in that process as well. So it doesn't define what a leadership role is, it just says a leadership role, so it is broad for a reason. It is also important to know, as I've said last time, we'll keep saying, the ethics policy is a self-driven policy. If you choose to cast a vote knowing you have a conflict, and now, FYI, we all know you have a conflict because you have filled out a form that says that. That could call into the consideration of membership review board reviewing that if a case is filed. It could also open the doors for the entire bill to be thrown out by the court if someone sends an appeal to the court because of that. So do keep that in mind as you progress through the evening. We're not going to ask you, Senator Timms, do you have a conflict here, right? We're not going to do that throughout the evening, and we're not also going to, in this space, say, let's say Senator Brown's like, well, I know Senator Timms has a conflict here. We're not going to say that in debate because that is not the appropriate mechanism to do that. Again, it is a self-enforced policy until a complaint is submitted, and then it becomes an enforced policy by the membership review board in that process. And as a reminder, it could also potentially open that funding and or the entire funding process if someone chooses to submit that to the court for them to review as well. It hasn't happened, so let's not do it. Let's not test some rules that we have never tested before, but let's not do that tonight. Does any questions on the ethics policy or on how this process works?
This is the time to ask any questions you may have before we begin moving into these organizations for each of their appropriation allocations. Are there any questions for Advisor Fonseca? Clarification? Chairperson Timms.
So if we initially consider a bill and then go back and reopen it to take money from it, that's allowed. We can only do that one time. But if we have yet to initially approve a bill, we take money from it, and then later we go back and take it again, are we allowed to do it, or are we only allowed to reduce it in RSO's budget one time?
If you haven't already, so let's say you're on line 2 and they're like, well, you want to take it from line 20? It's a great question, Senator Timms. I think our normal practice has been you can do it once. Now, from a Roberts perspective, if that bill has not come to the floor yet, keep in mind they are individual bills, so it's important to remember that. So I would probably argue, I would probably still say to do it once because then you get way too confusing from that aspect. But from a perspective, I guess you could test it. It has been an untested thing, so keep that in mind as well. Then that would open again for another court review in that process too. I think our normal practice, and correct me if I'm wrong, Speaker Fahn, had been you do it one time and then we don't do it again. I guess that just had been a practice the Senate has adopted internally over the couple of years since we have separated the bills from there. It's also, and I think that's a good point, while visually you are seeing it all together, it is separate bills. So we are voting on separate pieces of legislation tonight. So my advice would probably one time, since that would follow our normal practice of how we have done this in the past. But probably for sure something that I don't know which committee, I think Senate Affairs should probably take a look at as we legislate how we process that from there. Great, wonderful question to test some thoughts today. Other questions or comments or things that I can help clarify?
Any other questions? Senator Masale?
Something small, but if there was just like a percentage column on the right saying how much each organization is requesting out of the total budget? It would help us make the evaluation, if it's easy to add.
Yeah, I can work on that while we
Thank
begin.
Any further comments, questions? Senator Taylor?
All right, this is like just really quick paranoid confirmation. If there is like a bias, it's just you were encouraged to abstain, right, from the Ethics Council? It's just you just vote abstain, that's what you do?
That is correct. Yeah, you would click the yellow button on your clicker. Again, the same thing I would say to not even participate in the debating process or the question process in that particular bill if you have a conflict with it.
Okay, perfect. Dumb question over.
Yeah. Other questions?
Any other questions? Concerns?
All right, well, good luck.
Before we move into our item, as a reminder, in this Senate space, I expect everyone to be respectful of each other. If you have disagreements, of course that's okay, but we must have that respectful dialogue. We're all in this together for these different legislation as we move through these processes. At any point, if you feel like you believe that we should call a recess, don't hesitate to Teams me, and I would be more than willing to take a break at certain points. And I expect everyone to, of course, be dedicating their full and undivided attention to what is on the floor at each moment. With that, we'll now move into section 6.2, and I will hand over the chair to Vice President Raju for the duration of 6.2.
Thank you, Speaker Fawn. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-026, an act to authorize funding for 3D printed prosthetics.
Is the author here and wish to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Before I begin with the first bill tonight, I want to thank everyone who came to support their organization in public forum and give a general overview of the process. The Commission did the allocation in 3 rounds, the first round being going through each line item one by one and allocating an original amount. The second being going through the hearing notes and making the hard decision to cut organization based on reasons I will give for each organization. At the end, the Commission ruled to take roughly a 0.6% off of all of the orgs and round out the numbers. I would like to remind you all that the Commission has recommended this amount based on the quality of work they did stretching over 4 days, and I am very proud of everyone who was on the Commission and went through appropriations. Now we move into the first organization, 3D printed prosthetics. 3D printed prosthetics original allocation was $9,800 to cover maintenance and upkeep of current printers, the materials, and as well as additional line items. After that, they were then cut to $7,200. That way they can attend their conference, buy filament, and buy one new 3D printer. Finally, after the 0.6% takeoff, their final allocation was $7,155.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate? Seeing none, we will now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson. And then just to clarify again, if you have a bias, we will need you to abstain and instead of not voting in general.
The vote is open. The legislation passes. 15 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention.
Thank you. I'll now hand the chair back over to Speaker Font.
Thank you. We'll now move into 6.3. The clerk may read.
Point of order.
What is your point of order, Senator Mallard?
I'd like to make a motion.
That is not a point of order.
Then can I do a point of information real quick?
State your point.
If we're going to be doing unanimous consents for multiple, do we need to do that when we go into questioning, or do we want to do that before?
You will do it in between sections before we move into another section. So if you want to do unanimous consent, you would need to wait until then a period in between. So after this legislation is done, I will pause briefly if any individuals do wish to pass items by unanimous consent.
And we won't have to say point of order, we'll just raise our hand?
Yes, because it's not a point of order if we're not doing something that is not procedurally out of order. We'll now move into 6.3. Clerk Wilson, please read the name of the bill.
Act on request to approve SB-69-027, an act to authorize funding for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Hello. So the original motion was for $4,800. This was to cover TU of Epsilon Alpha, Common Ground Collab, Hot Chocolate and Affirmations, and ME training. The final motion was to decrease this, and then the final amount given was $2,485. This is still able to cover some of their main events, just taking out some of the costs and partially covering the ME training in the TU of Epsilon Alpha.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? We'll now move to Senator Mallard.
Motion to approve by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, the legislation passes. We will now move into section 6.4. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-028, an act to authorize funding for Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
And please note on the agenda that was sent out, there was some error on the name of the organization, but the name that Clerk Wilson has stated is the correct one. But is the author here ready to speak for this legislation? You have the floor.
The original allocation was for $5,740 to cover the regional convention and retreat as well as the district meetings. We understand this doesn't cover all of their cost, but we covered the main ones to the best of our ability. After that, the final allocation was $5,704 after the 0.6% was taken off.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, thank you. We'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? We'll go to Senator Mallard.
Motion to approve by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, this motion passes. Senator Mallard.
A motion to approve SB-69-029 through SB-69-030.
For our record, can you state the names of each of those legislation besides the numbers.
So SB-69-029, and an act to authorize funding for American Choral Directors Association. I think it's the full name, sorry, one second. And SB-69-030, an act to approve funding for the American Institute, my computer's taking a while to load, American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, these legislation passes. I will hand over the chair to Vice President Raju for section 6.7.
Thank you, Speaker Fund. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-031, an act to authorize funding for American Society of Mechanical Engineers.
Is the author here and wish to speak? You have the floor.
Hello. So the original allocation was for $1,195. This will cover their general body meetings, large general body meetings, and parts of their organizational operational costs. The final allocation after the 0.6% was $1,188.
Point of information.
Senator Timms.
Treasurer Naylor, I believe you're reading the wrong line.
My apologies. That's my bad. The original motion was for $7,440. This will fully fund the Collegiate Win Program, fully fund the summit, and partially fund meetings and outreach. After the 0.6%, the total allocation was $7,394.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for the author? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period for this item. Are there any senators that wish to speak in the debate period? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period for this item.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
Thank you. I'll now hand the chair back over to Speaker Fawn.
Thank you. Senator Maurer, do you have a motion?
A motion to approve SB-69-032, an act to authorize funding for the Arab Student Association by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objection, the motion passes. I will hand the chair over to Vice President Raju for section 6.9.
Thank you, Speaker Fawn. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-033, an act to authorize funding for Asian Student Conference.
Is the author here and wish to speak? You have the floor.
The original motion was for $9,000 due to the fact that they did not spend roughly $14,000 of their agency funds last year. Asian Student Conference was allocated $23 in agency funds, and they spent roughly 8,500 of that, as well as they can attend MASUX and some of their smaller conference to attend within a smaller budget.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for the author? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any senators that wish to speak in debate? Seeing none, we will go into the voting period for this item.
The vote is open. Senator Mallard. With 14 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Thank you. I'll now hand the chair back over to Speaker Fawn.
We will now move into 6.10. The clerk may read.
An act on request to approve SB-69-034, an act to authorize funding for Audio Engineering Society.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
The original motion was for $8,371 to cover conference, general meetings, and the only thing that was not including in that was operating expenses. After that, in the second round, they were allocated $5,360. This allowed AES this allowed them to go to AES to fully fund tabling, fundraising, and guest speaking. After that, the final allocation, after the 0.6%, was $5,327.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing no individuals that wish to speak in debate, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the voting period.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will take a brief 5-minute recess. We will recess until 6:50 p.m. I recess this meeting at 6:45 p.m. Calling the Senate back to order at 6:50 p.m. It is the opinion of the chair that all members are present. We will now move into 6.11. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-035, an act to authorize funding for Bangladesh Student Association.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
The original allocation of $6,000 was said to cover culture events, banquets, as well as celebratory events that impact a large number of students here on campus. After the 0.6 reduction, it's $5,963.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Senator Mallard.
Motion to approve by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, the legislation passes. We will now move into 6.12. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-036, an act to authorize funding for Biomedical Engineering Society.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original motion was for $8,000. This will cover all general meetings, Boeing tours, industry night, and some of the conference cost. In the second round, they were motioned to allocate $5,385. This would have sent 3 people to conference and have their general meeting funds covered. The final allocation was $5,352.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 14 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard, do you have a motion?
A motion to approve SB-69-037, an act to authorize funding for Chi Sigma Tau and National Fraternity, Inc., SB-69-38, authorize funding for Club Nova, SB-69-39, funding for Corazon Latina, SB-69-40, funding for Cosmoshocks, SB-69-41, funding for Criminal Justice Student Association, and SB-69-42, funding for Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing an objection from Senator Arteaga, the motion fails. We will now move into section 6.13. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-037, an act to authorize funding for Chi Sigma Tau National Fraternity Incorporated.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original motion was for $2,750. This will cover part of the stroll at $250, formal installation, and spring conference, but not the expansion efforts. It was also mentioned that they do have $3,000 in safekeeping, and while that was said to be donated, they may need to fall on that back. They may need to fall back on that a little bit.
Thank you. We'll move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no question, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak during the debate period? Senator Mallard.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, this legislation passes. Senator Mallard, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-38, an act to authorize funding for Club Nova by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, the motion passes. We'll now move into 6.15. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-039, an act to authorize funding for Corazon Latina.
You have the floor.
The original allocation was for $4,300. This organization was stated to have a large impact on campus while still being new and showed a large impact from fundraising efforts as well. So we have no doubt that they will be able to make up the difference in their budget. The final allocation was for $4,273.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing no individuals that wish to speak in debate, we'll now move into the voting period for this item.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard, do you have any motions?
Motion to approve SB-69-40, and Cosmo Shocks, SB-69-41, Criminal Justice Student Association, SB-69-42, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc., by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to these motions? Seeing no objections, these pieces of legislation passes. We'll now move into, Senator Mallard, your mic is still on. We'll now move into 6.19. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-043, an act to authorize funding for Engineers Without Borders, USA.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original motion was for $7,000. This was their minimum operating budget. Engineering Without Borders provides large opportunities for applied learning for engineering students, as well as they do amazing work in other countries. The second round had the allocation of $5,500 to provide some relief in their general funding areas, as we were not able to cover all of the areas specified. Finally, their allocation was $5,466.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 14 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-44, and An act to authorize funding for English Graduate Student Association by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, this legislation is adopted as such. We'll now move into 6.21. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-045, an act to authorize funding for Fairmount College Student Advisory Council.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The Fairmount College Student Advisory Council was funded at $0. The reasoning stated was that the college should be responsible for funding student advisory councils.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Senator Lee?
May I ask if the college has funded the advisory council or no?
Is that a question, or are you asking? Or is that a question for Treasurer Naylor, or are you asking me as the chair if you're allowed to ask that question?
I'm going to ask if the college could fund the advisory council or no.
Treasurer Naylor.
Thank you, Senator Lee. I am not aware of the college's funding capabilities. However, we are encouraging the college to possibly look into this, or leaving it up to the advisory council to find other routes of funding.
Are there any additional questions? Senator Mallard?
Do we know if they've been funded at all by the, if I'm allowed to ask this, I guess, have they been funded by them at all in the past, or do we have that data?
I'll defer this question to Advisor Fonseca.
Senator, I'm not aware if they have or not. It is a student organization, so student organizations, unless they are classified as a type of organization that can receive funding from their colleges, and currently this group is not classified as that. This would match all of the advisory groups across the university, some that are here presenting in their request, but I am not aware that if the college has ever funded them. And I'm not sure they would have because of the type of student organization that it's classified as. Does that answer your question?
Are there any additional questions? Seeing no additional questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 14 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard.
A motion to approve SB-69-46, an act to authorize funding for first generation student organization, SB 6947, Forensic Science Society, SB-69-48, Go Baby Go, Wichita State University, SB-69 no. I'll leave it there, by unanimous consent.
To clarify, you wish to approve SB 69-46, SB
Through 48.
Through 48, okay. Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing objection for Senator Arteaga, the motion fails. We'll now move into 6.22, and the clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-046, an act to authorize funding for First Generation Student Organization.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original motion was for 5,000, funding all line items, and the final allocation was for $4,969 after the .6 removal.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Chairperson Brown.
I motion to adopt by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none is adopted as such. Senator Maurer, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-47, an act to authorize funding for Forensic Science Society by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to approving SB 69-47 by unanimous consent? Seeing none, that legislation is adopted as such. We'll now move into 6.24. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-048, an act to authorize funds for Go Baby Go, Wichita State University.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original motion was for $2,200. This covers all build materials, body meetings, and part of their fundraiser. After the .6 reduction, it was $2,187.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. Senator Lee and Senator Arteaga, I am waiting on a vote. With 16 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.20. Before we move into 6.25, I'll go to Chairperson Winslow.
Point of information.
State your point.
That was for Go Baby Go, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, the spreadsheet was just off.
We will recess for 5 minutes and figure out the voting. We will re-adjourn at 7:14 p.m. I recess this meeting at 7:09 p.m. I call this meeting back to order at 7:15 p.m. It is the opinion of the chair that all members are present. We'll now move into before we move into 6.25, we are adjusting the record to reflect that the last vote was 15 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention. There was an error with the clicker system. Moving forwards, if you have an error with your clicker and you raise your hand, please raise your hand with the clicker in your hand so I know it's about the clicker system during the voting period, right afterwards. So if you realize, hey, I abstained on this, hey, I voted no, and the vote is incorrect, raise your hand with the clicker in your hand. That way we can take care of that as we go along. But we will now move into 6.25. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-049, an act to authorize funding for Graduate Student Council.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $12,000. This would have covered the graduate leadership training, legal advice conference, legal seminar, wellness activity, and the semester social. Also includes gifts for start and end of semester socials. After the first round, we moved into the second round, and that allocation was for $10,000, covering the welcome social, business presentation conference, and other collaboration project. After the 0.6%, it was $9,937.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 16 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.26. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-050, an act to authorize funding for Hispanic American Leadership Organization.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $18,000. It was mentioned that they were well established, had great outreach on campus, and expansion activities were covered within this, as well as a few operating costs. After the first round, we then moved into the second with an allocation of $15,200. This was budgeting for CSIP Weta Day and the 10-person conference, as well as Posada. The total allocation was $15,105 after the 0.6 reduction.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Are there any individuals? Sorry, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 16 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.27. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-051, an act to authorize funding for Hispanics in healthcare.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $2,125. This was to cover events, fundraising, amount of events for healthcare students, and that they are beneficial to campus and their overall impact is spread farther than just the health professions college. College. After the 0.6% reduction, their final allocation was $2,112.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. Senator Bosley. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-052, an act to authorize funding for the Indigenous Student Collective.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. Advisor Fonseca.
Sorry, just to be nitpicky, the motion did not say unanimous consent, so you're gonna have to redo that motion because there wasn't an actual motion there for the unanimous consent portion. So sorry, I know that's nitpicky, but I gotta make sure that record is correct.
Senator Mallard.
Motion to approve SB-69-052, an act to authorize funding for Indigenous Student Collective by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, is adopted as such. We will now move into 6.29. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-053, an act to authorize funding for innovation design.
You have the floor.
Innovation design was funded at $7,725 for the CES conference, AI hackathon, and social events covered. After the second round, they were cut to $5,000. This will cover the hackathon and Adobe Student Ambassador events. And they will be able to send a few students to the CES conference with this. After the 0.6 removal, it was $4,969.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions from Treasurer any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 16 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-54, an act to authorize funding for Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Ede Kappa Nu, and SB-69-55, an act to authorize funding for their International Student Union by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, this motion passes. We'll now move into 6.32. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-056, an act to authorize funding for Japanese Culture Association.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The first allocation was for $2,800. It was said to have been a well-rounded presentation as well as all line items. All line item requests being justifiable. After the 0.6 reduction, it's $2,783.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.33. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-057, an act to authorize funding for Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The allocation for Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated was stated at 0 as the Finance Commission did not let them present.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? We'll go to Senator Lee first.
And may I ask the exact reason why the presentation could not happen?
Treasurer Naylor.
Absolutely. The presenter for this organization had shown up late to their presentation slot. I was then informed that there was some internal communication errors between the organization, and I presented all of the information given to me, and the Finance Commission voted not to hear them present.
Are there any other questions for Treasurer Naylor? Okay, seeing no further questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Chairperson Timms.
I'm aware that this is a somewhat controversial decision that the Finance Commission made, but I will be speaking in affirmation of this. I think that Finance Commission does have very strict rules when it comes to presentation, and missing a presentation results typically in no allocation of funding. So although this may not be very popular, I do think that this does adhere to our common held practice and that it should continue to be upheld.
Are there any additional individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 16 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Senator Maurer, do you have a motion?
A motion to approve SB-69-58, an act to authorize funding for K-Varsity. SB-69-59, authorize funding for Mid-America Dance Theater. And SB-69-60, funding for Microcosmos by unanimous consent.
Thank you. Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, the motion is adopted as such. We'll now move into 6.37. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-061, an act to authorize funding for Model United Nations at WSU.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation for MNU was $10,000 to cover Ozark and Chicago conferences covered, and the $24,000 amount granted from the Honors College was deducted. After that, in the second round, the allocation of $7,935 were given. This to cover registration, the Ozark competition, AMON registration, or AMUN registration, and travel costs covered. Money will be received from LAS, and they have other conference revenue as well. The final allocation was $7,885.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor at this time? Senator Maurer, your mic is still on. Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 13 yes, 0 no, and 3 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard.
Motion to approve SB-6. A motion to approve SB-69-62 and authorize an act to authorize funding for National Association for Music Education Collegiate, SB-69-63, funding for the National Society of Black Engineers, and SB-64, SB-69-64, funding for National Society of Leadership and Success by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion?
I object.
Seeing objection from Senator Lee, the motion fails. We'll now move into 6.38. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-062, an act to authorize funding for National Association for Music Education Collegiate.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The allocation was for $1,800. It was said that they were well presented, had justified line items, and they are good stewards of their funds. Their final allocation after the .6 removal was $1,789.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Senator Mallard.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. We will now move into 6.39. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-063, an act to authorize funding for National Society of Black Engineers.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $10,500, covering their largest convention costs and general meeting costs. After the second round, it was reduced to $8,000 to send 20 members to conference and cover all promotional and meeting costs. After the .6 removal, their final allocation was $7,950.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move to the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.40. The clerk may read.
An act on request to approve SB-69-064, an act to authorize funding for National Society of Leadership and Success.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
This organization, when funded at $0.00, it was said that they had $1,800 left and $1,000 in student dues for org funding. Student dues that the organization should fund to nationals. My bad.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any individuals that have questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Senator Mallard.
I'll be speaking in affirmation. I think the reasoning for funding them at $0 is very explicit. They have money that they can use, and obviously, if they're going to need more, there are other avenues for them to request more funding.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wolf. We'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote for SB 69-064.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will take a 10-minute recess. We will recess until 7:48 p.m. I recess this meeting at 7:38 p.m. I call this meeting back to order at 7:48 p.m. It is the opinion of the chair that all members are present. We will now move into Senator Mallard. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-65, an act to authorize funding for Nepalese Student Association, SB 6966, Omega Delta Phi Fraternity, Inc., SB 6967, OSEM Wichita State University, and SB 6968, an act to authorize funding for Paraguayan Student Association by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, this motion is adopted as such. Before we move into 6.45, one thing that I would like to note is the conflict of interest form has been updated with an additional response. We will now move into 6.45. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-069, an act to authorize funding for Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, Gamma Nu Chapter.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
$0. The organization did not present.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Are there any questions? Senator Lee?
And do we know why they got the $0 in funding?
Treasurer Naylor said that they did not present. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote for SB 69-069.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard.
A motion to approve SB-69-70, an act to authorize funding for Pre-Dental Student Association, and SB-69-071, an act to authorize funding for Psychology Club by unanimous consent.
Can you repeat your motion one more time?
I motion to approve SB-69-070, an act to authorize funding for Pre-Dental Student Association, and SB 69-071, the Psychology Club by unanimous consent.
Thank you. Are there any objections for this motion? Seeing an objection from Senator Hinojosa, the motion fails. We will now move into 6.46. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-070, an act to authorize funding for Pre-Dental Student Association.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $8,150. This was for meeting tours and the service trip to KC covered, and they mentioned that the $1,000 in sponsorships can help cover the minimum operating budget. After that, there was $7,000 allocated. They trimmed off from general meetings, travel costs, and the main reason for taking away some of the travel costs was removing lodging, as this would be a one-day trip to KMOM. After the 0.6%, the final allocation was $6,956.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 16 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.47. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-071, an act to authorize funding for Psychology Club.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The allocation of $2,000 was given. It was noted that this was a good presentation, and this covers general meetings with prices reduced. The final allocation was $1,988.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 16 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.48. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-072, an act to authorize funding for Redeemed Campus Fellowship.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $1,900. This covers events and serves. This covers some of their events. It was noted that this organization serves a significant number of non-students. And then after the second round, an allocation was made for $1,400. And this was noted that it serves a number of events not focused as much on students comparatively, and they receive help from their church.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any individuals with questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 16 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.49. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-073, an act to authorize funding for Rocket Club.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $2,500. This partially covers material costs, electronics, instrumentation, safety supply, and hardware. It does not cover the certifications, and the commission was concerned about the leftover $3,584 from last year that was swept from their account. The final allocation was $2,485.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.50. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-074 and act to authorize funding for secular state an an act to request to approve SB-69-074 an act to authorize funding for secular shockers.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Secular Shockers was allocated $0 as their reported costs did not add up to the $1,500 minimum stated in the bylaws. Originally, I had reached out to Secular Shockers and informed them that if they could justify spending $1,500 throughout the year, then they may continue to apply for appropriations. They did explain that they were able to justify that. However, in their presentation, all of their costs only added up just to a little bit over $800.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any individuals that have questions for Treasurer Naylor at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will be taking a brief 4-minute recess. We will reconvene at 8:06 p.m. I recess this meeting at 8:01 p.m. I call this meeting back to order at 8:06 p.m. It is the opinion of the chair that all members are present. So looking back at the live stream, we recognize that two of the unanimous consent motions that were made, we did not say unanimous consent within the motion for AR-69-029, an act to authorize funding for American Choral Directors Association, an act on request to approve SB-69-030, an act to authorize funding for the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. So I move to approve SB-69-029, an act to authorize funding for the American Choral Directors Association, and act on request to approve SB-69-030, an act to authorize funding for the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, these pieces of legislation are adopted. We will now move into 6.51. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-075, an act to authorize funding for Shocker Racing Baja SAE.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The first allocation was $6,500. The reason given was that they did not attend a competition, but this was allowed to be a little bit of leeway as there was a smaller conference that they attended. The second round stated that they were allocated $5,000, adding that the competition registrations, travel fee, and having an extra $500 to hopefully partially cover food, housing, etc. So that should cover a little bit of their upcoming competition this season.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.52. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-076, an act to authorize funding for Shocker Racing Formula, SAE.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $7,088 to cover half of Michigan travels. It was also noted that lower funding from last year and the year before did not hinder their activities in their presentation. After the first round, they were decreased to $5,600. This still covers a portion of Michigan competition, as well as partial cost from Formula W and UTA Autocross.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any individuals with questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 14 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard, do you have a motion?
A motion to approve SB-69-077, an act to authorize funding for Shocker Robotics by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, it is adopted as such. We will now move into 6.54. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-078, an act to authorize funding for SHPE Leading Hispanics in STEM.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker Fawn. The original allocation was for $7,800. This was to cover large expenses from fall conference, but they still hold a significant funding in safekeeping for this organization. After that, it was knocked down to $6,000. This was a revisited allocation. This would cover a portion of the large events, but with a few more line items subtracted, it was decided based on what the organization seemed to prioritize both, as well as in the deliberations, harder cuts were being made.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
Senator Maurer, do you have a motion?
A motion to approve SB-69-079, an act to authorize funding for Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Inc., and SB-69-080, an act to authorize funding for Sigma Lambda Beta International Fraternity Inc. by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, it is adopted as such. We will now move into 6.57. Clerk Wilson, please read the name of the bill.
Act on request to approve SB-69-081, an act to authorize funding for Sigma Psi Zeta.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Sigma Psi Zeta was funded at $0 as they had $10,000 plus in safekeeping, and they did not have a well-rounded explanation for why they had so much in safekeeping and what it would be used for.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Senator Hinojosa.
Sorry. Do you have any specification of like how much they actually had in safekeeping?
Central office, do you have a specific reading for how much they had?
You say reason or what the number is? I'll have to look it up.
Are there any additional questions for Treasurer Naylor? We will wait for the central office's response. Central office, do you require a recess? We will recess for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. We will reconvene at 8:19 p.m. I recess this meeting at 8:15 p.m. I call this meeting back to order at 8:19 p.m. It is the opinion of the chair that all members are present. Central office, do you have an answer regarding the inquiry?
Yes, the current balance is $8,833.26.
Are there any additional questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Missing a few votes.
With 16 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.58. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-082, an act to authorize funding for Sigma Tau Delta Alpha Theta Omicron.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $3,500 to cover part of their conference and part of their meetings. They did have $2,700 of unspent funds last year, and that was a little bit concerning. Their final allocation after the 0.6 removal was $3,478.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Missing a few votes.
With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
Before we move into 6.59, I hand the chair over to Vice President Raju.
We'll now move into section 6.9. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-083, an act to authorize funding for Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers were allocated $6,400 to cover larger events and engagement opportunities. It was decided that the sponsorship revenue should be able to help meet their minimum operating budget. Their final allocation was $6,360.
Thank you, and we will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate? Seeing none, we will now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson.
The vote is open. With 14 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Thank you. I now hand the chair back over to Speaker Fawn.
Senator Maurer, do you have a motion?
I motion to approve SB-69-084, an act to authorize funding for Society of Human Resource Management WSU student chapters, and SB-69-085, an act to authorize funding for Society of Physics students by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. We'll now move into 6.62. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-086, an act to authorize funding for Spectrum LGBTQ and allies.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Their original allocation was $18,100. This included most line items, $7,500 for the spring drag, and the whole 50-year celebration minus half of the food and the emergency fund from the 50-year celebration and the drag show, as well as covers Pride Prom and Winter Drag, and they had been good stewards of funds in the past. After the second round, we had to dip a little bit around the minimum operating budget, but it still covered the conference and Winter Drag, as well as partial other line items.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
Senator Maurer, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-087, the Sri Lankan Cultural Association, SB-69-88, Student Association for Supply Chain Management, SB-6989, Student Organization of Social Work, and SB-6990, an act to authorize funding for the Cosplay Club by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. Before we move into 6.67, I hand the chair over to Vice President Raju.
We'll now move into item 6.67. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-091, an act to authorize funding for the Engineering Council.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The Engineering Council was funded at $0, as they had roughly stated in their presentation around $10,000 in their safekeeping.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions? I'll go to Senator Timms.
Was the same logic used for the Engineering Council that was used for the Fairmount College Student Advisory Council?
Senator Timms, that's a really good question. The answer is I don't know, because that's sort of a what if question. It was really not discussed because of the number in their safekeeping was so high. I would assume that if I will say other organizations that had a very high number in their safekeeping also received $0 allocations. But I cannot speak on the discretion the commission would have used in the case of the Fairmount Advisory Board.
Are there any other questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate I'll go to Senator Mallard.
Yeah, I'll just be speaking in affirmation. I do agree that with the amount of money that they have in safekeeping, it is safe to say that they do have the funds that they need for operating costs, as well as if at any point in the future that they need more money, we have avenues to help them with that. In case I didn't say it, I am speaking in affirmation.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals who wish to speak in debate? I'll go to Senator Lee.
I am perfectly willing to speak in affirmation on the pretense that if the Engineering Council ever needs additional funding and those other avenues that Mallard may or may not have mentioned don't work, there's always the College of Engineering that it could go to.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals who wish to speak in debate? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 12 yes, 0 no, and 4 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Thank you. I'll now hand the chair back over to Speaker Fawn.
Senator Mallard, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-092, an act to authorize funding for the mission by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. We'll now move into 6.69. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-093, an act to authorize funding for Turning Point USA at Wichita State University.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
The original allocation was $6,000. The final sum funds 3 people to attend. This allocation funds 3 people to attend both conferences, as well as have 1 guest speaker. And then after the second round, the allocation was $5,370 and allows them to attend the conference with 3 people, pay for part of the speaker, and leaves money for tabling, as well as the commission reason that the national organization will hopefully be able to support them for the rest of their needs.
We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
Senator Mallard, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-094, an act to authorize funding for Vietnamese Student Association by unanimous consent.
I will object to that motion. Before we move into 6.70, I hand the chair over to Vice President Raju.
Thank you, Speaker Fawn. The clerk may read.
An act on request to approve SB-69-094, an act to authorize funding for Vietnamese Student Association.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The Vietnamese Student Association was allocated $6,000 in the first round. This will fund some of their events, as well as some of their conference costs, and the commission stated that fundraising will hopefully be able to make up a difference, as they are a very proactive group. The final allocation was for $5,963.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 13 yes, 1 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Thank you. I now hand the chair back over to Speaker Fawn.
We will now move into 6.71. Act on request to approve SB-69-095, an act to authorize funding for walking and rolling costumes. Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Originally, walking and rolling costumes was funded $1,500 to fully fund their client's costume line item. It was also mentioned that this art organization gives back to children in the community, and it is positively reflected and shown that they do make an impact within the Wichita State community, but within the Wichita community as well. The final allocation was $1,491 after the 0.6 reduction.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.72. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-096, an act to authorize funding for Wichita State Society of Women Engineers.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $8,500 to fund the annual conference, general meetings, as well as some recruitment costs like tabling, marketing, outreach. It was then reduced to $7,000 to allocate for 5 people to attend the annual conference, with some funding left over for other line items. After the 0.6 reduction, the final allocation was $6,956.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 14 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Senator Maurer, do you have a motion?
Motion to approve SB-69-097. Act authorize funding for Wichita State University American String Teacher Association. And SB-69-098, an act authorize funding for Wichita State University Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. And SB-69-099, an act authorize funding for Wichita State University Linux Users Group by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, it is adopted as such. We'll now move into 6.76. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-100, an act to authorize funding for Wichita State Volleyball Club.
Clerk Wilson, Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker Fawn. In the first round, $8,000 were allocated to the WSU Volleyball Club. This would fund one team for each tournament. It also will fund the ball cart and jerseys not included because dues do contribute to them and help them reach a little bit closer to the minimum operating budget. After that, they were allocated to $6,000 and reduced to one team only to go to nationals. And it also excluded the funding of the ball cart. After the 0.6 reduction, it's $5,963.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 16 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
We will now move into 6.77. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-101, an act to authorize funding for women in cybersecurity at Wichita State University.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The original allocation was for $5,700 to cover national conference speaker, additional competition costs, and there is a little bit extra provided to cover meeting supplies as well as promotional materials to help them throughout the year. After the 0.6 reduction, the final allocation was $5,665.
We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing no questions, we'll now move into the debate period. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Missing a couple votes.
With 16 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions, the legislation passes.
I will now hand the chair over to Vice President Raju for 6.78.
Thank you. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-69-102, an act to authorize funding for WSU American Sign Language Club.
Treasurer Naylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. The ASL Club was funded at $1,500 to fully fund their budget request and all line items. After the 0.6 reduction, their final allocation was $1,491.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Treasurer Naylor? Seeing none, we'll now move into the debate period. Is there anyone who would like to speak in debate on this item? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period. Clerk Wilson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. With 14 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions, the legislation passes.
Thank you. I'll now hand the chair back over to Speaker Fawn.
Senator Maurer, do you have a motion?
I motion to approve SB-69-103, an act authorized funding for WSU Doctor of Physical Therapy Student Organization, SB-69-104, an act authorized funding for WSU Physician Associate Student Society, and SB-69-105, an act authorized funding for WSU Student Speech Language Hearing Association by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to these motions? Seeing no objections, they are adopted as such. Before we move into Section 7, closing roll call, I want to iterate how proud I am of all of you for going through all these pieces of legislation, deliberating, asking questions, and participating within this process. We couldn't do this process without the Finance Commission's input, without your final approval throughout this process. I especially want to give a shout out to Treasurer Naylor for not only leading the Finance Commission, but also coming for all of us today to go through these pieces of legislation. And I would also like to thank all of those that watched us on YouTube through the live stream. In particular, I know Emeritus Senator Abby Otten is watching too, but I'm also thankful for all of those that spoke in public forum and joined us in the gallery tonight. Advisor Fonseca, do you have any closing remarks?
No, echo everything you said there. Also, just want to take a moment to say as we begin this year in this process, every year we have the conversation about appropriations and the good things and the things of areas of improvement. I can urge you all, as you are in spaces with students, especially student organizations, listen to their feedback, get their feedback, and make sure that you bring that feedback to I think it's government oversight. I don't actually know yes, government oversight, so that conversation can be had in that space. Because it's always important that we make sure that we're working through this process and this funding pool to make sure that our policies are in line with what it is that we're trying to do. So I encourage you to also listen to what the students who presented today in public forum shared and said. I'm not saying by any means our appropriations process is perfect. I think there are still some areas and room to grow, but I think we need to make sure that we're listening to your constituents as you are having those conversations as well. But I do want to echo what the speaker mentioned with Treasurer Naylor in leading your first major process, so congratulations to you. Let's give Grace a little round of applause for that. And as we go into the year, this is it, right? This is our big one. Now we'll go to the regular session as we get ready for fees in the spring semester. But again, making sure that you're out there engaging with your peers. And in a couple of weeks, as new senators take their seats in this chamber, to also making sure that we're including and engaging them in this process. So again, we can learn from other perspectives as well. For any of our new folks, if you have questions, especially about kind of policy, the process, I imagine the treasurer is open to have those conversations. So please encourage you to do that as well. But thank you all for all of your hard work. And that's all I got.
Okay, and also as a reminder for your clickers, please don't take your clickers home with you before you leave too. And after the live stream has ended, I ask that you all stay here for one one important announcement and thing that I would like to do for a member. But with that, we'll now move into Section 7, closing roll call. Clerk Wilson, please open the closing roll call.
Closing roll call is open. Please press any button on your clicker to be marked present. All members are present.
We'll now move into Section 8, adjournment. The Student Government Association Senate will stand adjournment until Wednesday, September 2nd, 2026 at 7:30 p.m. I adjourn this meeting at 8:49 p.m. And then RSC staff, please give a thumbs up when the live stream has ended.